Alright, so we have our IndexedDB database set up and open. So what we want to do now is have a way to add to it. Okay, so we're going to be able to do that through this customer form. So if we go to our main.js file, we want to create a new function called add customer, and we're going to create it outside of the document ready function. So down here we'll have a function called add customer. Alright, now this function is going to be called when we submit the form because we have this form handler. Okay, so on submit it goes to add customer. Now the first thing we want to do is get the values that the user types in these fields. Okay, and we're going to do that with jQuery. We'll create variables for them. Okay, variable name, and then we'll use jQuery to grab the field with the ID of name. Let's just make sure we have that. Okay, input type. Okay, so we don't. So we need to add an ID to these input fields. Okay, and then we need to use the value. We need to use, the val method to get the actual value typed in. Okay, we'll do the same thing for the email. Alright, now when you're interacting with the database, you need to use transactions. Okay, so we create a variable called transaction, and we want to set that to db.transaction. Okay, and then we want to put in the object stores that we want to use. In this case, it's going to be just customers, but you can see that this is an array, and you can add more to this if needed. Alright, so that's the first parameter, and the next is going to be read write. Okay, now if the transaction is going to involve changing the database at all, so adding or updating, you want to use read write. If it's just a select, just to display items, then you could use read only. Alright, so next we're going to ask for the object store. Okay, so we'll create another variable and we'll call it store and set that to transaction dot object store, and then the name of it, which is going to be, or which is customers. Alright, and then we're going to define a customer that we want to enter. So we'll create a variable called customer, and that's going to be equal to an object. Okay, so name, what we want to do is insert the name that the person types in the form, which is represented up here with the name variable. Okay, so name, and then email. Okay, so that gives us basically just a customer object. Then we want to perform the add. Okay, and we do that with a request. So request is going to be equal to our store variable dot add, and then in here customer. Okay, so this is obviously coming from here. Okay, so that's going to perform the add, and then we're going to we want our success and error callbacks. Okay, so here we're going to say request dot on success equals function Okay, and basically all I want to do after a user is entered is redirect to the home page. Okay, so we're going to do a simple JavaScript redirect. Window.location.href, and we want to go to index.html. Okay, now for the error, function, and what we're going to do here, we'll just I guess we'll just have an alert that'll say that the user wasn't entered. Sorry, the customer was not added. And then I want to do a console as well, and I want the actual error. So console log, actually I'll use double quotes. I'll use single quotes. So console.log error, and then we're going to say e.target.error.name, and that'll give us the exact error. Alright, so that should do it. Let's save this, and let's go ahead and open up the console. Okay, show customers is not defined. We already know that. Let me just comment that out for now. Okay, so you can see the database is open. Okay, now let's go to add customer, and we'll say Ted Smith. Add an email address, and let's just see what happens. Alright, so we didn't get any error, we got the redirect. Now we can check our resources. Alright, and if we go to our IndexedDB, go to name, you can see we have Ted Smith. Email, we have his email. Alright, so that works. Adding works. Now what we need to do is get our customers to display in this table, and we want to do that with the show customers function. So let's create that now. Oh, my cursor sometimes turns into this when I'm using my recording software, so I apologize. It's a little weird, but it should go away actually. Alright, so let's go ahead and uncomment right here, show customers, and let's build that function. Alright, we're going to pass in an event variable. Alright, so what we want to do is we want a transaction to display the customers, just like we did up here. So I can actually copy this. Alright, now the difference here is we're just showing customers, so we don't need write access. So we're going to change this to read only. Okay, and just like we did up here, we'll create the object store variable. Okay, now we're going to use a method called open cursor. Alright, so basically we're going to use a cursor to iterate through all of our customers. Alright, so it basically is a loop. Alright, so we need to create an index variable for that. So variable index equals store dot index, and we need to put the name of the index we're going to use name, okay, the customer's name. Now, in order to do that, we have to actually create an index up here inside of our onUpgradedNeeded function. Okay, so right under here, I'm going to use my OS object, and we're going to say create index, and then we want the name, which is going to be name. We have to actually put name for the first and second parameters. Okay, and then we want we need to specify if this value should be unique, and since it's a name, it's not going to be unique, okay, because two people can have the same name. Create index for name. Alright, let's go back down here. So now what we need to do is build the output. So if we look at our page, we have a table, we have a table heading, okay, we have a row with headings. So what we need to create are rows with columns, alright, and the column will have and the ID, the name, email address, and also a delete link. Alright, so that's what we need to build. So we're going to start by just initializing a variable called output. Okay, whoops, we don't need that. We need var output, and I'm just going to set it to nothing. Okay, now what we're going to do is use that index variable to use the open cursor method. So open cursor dot on success equals function alright, so in here we're going to create another variable called cursor, and we're going to set it equal to e dot target dot result. Okay, and we'll say if cursor, if it exists, then in here we can build our output. Alright, so we'll take that output variable, and we want to append to it, because remember, we created it up here. We just want to keep adding to it, and you can do that with plus equals. Alright, so what do we want to put in here? We want our row. So basically, whatever we put in here is going to happen for every customer that it iterates through. Okay, so if there are 5 customers, this is going to run 5 times. Alright, so we want to create a table row, and I'm going to give this row a class of, actually, you know what? Let's add that afterwards, because I don't want to confuse you. It can be a little tough to read when you're going in and out of JavaScript, concatenating and things like that. So yeah, okay, so we have the tr tag, and I'm just going to keep building onto this. Instead of making one long string, I'm just going to keep appending. Alright, and then inside of the tr, we want columns, obviously, so we're going to do a td. TD. Alright, so the first TD is going to be the ID. Now to get this, we want to concatenate. So we're going to use the cursor variable. We're going to say cursor dot value and then dot whatever field that you want. So we could do name, email, or ID. Okay, so we want the ID for the first column, and let's just keep on adding to this. So output append the next column. I can actually just copy this. Okay, so the next column is going to be our name. Okay, so basically need our quotes here. Okay, so this is going to be the name, and let me just copy this, make it easier. This will be the email, and then here we're just going to have a delete link. It's not going to go to anything yet. Alright, and I actually want to put these the name and the email into a span tag, because we're going to use this later so that we can add that content editable attribute so that we can actually just click on it and edit the text. Okay, span there and span here. Alright. Okay, so down here we want to close out the table row. Okay, we just want to make this an ending tag. Alright, and then here we just want to say cursor dot continue. Okay, so basically it'll keep going until there are no more entries left. And then finally we just want to output the output. Okay, so we're going to do, we want the customers. Actually, let me go back to the index page. Alright, so we didn't add the, we need to add our ID to the T-body, because this is directly where we're going to put this code. Okay, so we want an ID of customers. Okay, and then here we can get it, customers. We're going to say customers.html, which basically lets us insert whatever we want, and we're going to insert the output variable. Alright, so let's cross our fingers, reload, get this console open. Alright, perfect. So we have our ID, name, email address, delete link. Okay, now we can't click on this and edit or anything because we haven't done that yet, but we will get to that. So let's go ahead and try to add one more customer. Say Jeff Johnson. Say jjj@gmail. Perfect. Okay, so we add it, redirects us, shows it right away. Alright, so things are looking good. In the next video, we're going to add delete functionality and also clearing the entire list.